Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Scholl. I serve as the Director of Wellness and Communications at the Center for Educator Wellness and Learning. We call ourselves COOL for short. And you can find all you ever wanted to know about COOL right here on this website, cool.us. That's CEWL.us. And of course, we would not be here without a grant from the National Education Association and our partnership with their state affiliate here in South Carolina, the SCEA. Right now, the SCEA is in their early enrollment period, and you can join the SCEA at jointhescea.org. You will pay no dues for June, July, and August. So, in other words, you won't have any dues come out till September. So, now is a great time to join if you are even thinking about joining. Well, tonight we have a very special guest. He's someone I've gotten to know over the past couple of years, someone who I have a deep respect for. His name is James Baraz, and he's been teaching mindfulness meditation since 1978. So people who are into mindfulness, he's one of the OGs here. He was a school teacher, though, in New York City many years ago, and he's a founding teacher at Spirit Rock Meditation Center. James started the Spirit Rock Family Program with his wife, Jane. He is also the co-author of Awakening Joy, 10 Steps to Happiness, and leads the popular Awakening Joy online course. James is also co-author with Michele Lilyanna of Awakening Joy for Kids. He's a guiding teacher of the Insight Meditation community of Berkeley and a guiding teacher of One Earth Sangha and Virtual Dharma Eco Center devoted to Buddhist responses to climate change. James lives in Berkeley with his wife, Jane, and has 2 sons and 3 grandchildren. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation tonight. Welcome, James Baraz. How are you tonight, James?
I'm good and really happy to be here with you and anyone who might be watching this.
I think it would be good. First of all, I always read people's bios, and I know when people read mine, I always think, I don't know if that's exactly what I wanted to share, but like, is there anything else that you'd like to share with people, particularly about your education background or anything else that wasn't in the bio that you'd like them to know?
You read so much, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm I don't know how much more I could add other than getting introduced to meditation was really one of the most significant things that has happened in my life, and just gives me a lot of gratitude to share that with others, and and also the way it can be applied to people's well-being inside and spreading the goodness outside.
Well, speaking of that, we spoke just a little bit before we went on live, and I asked you if it would be okay if we would start with the practice. So I think I would just like to invite you to sort of guide us in a practice to start things, so people get a feel for what you do.
Sure. Get my bells ready. Yeah, and it'll be good for me and for us to settle and arrive here too. So anybody watching either live or later on, just invite you to come into the moment by letting go of anything that's happened up till this point today, letting go of everything in the past, letting go of what's to come and everything in the future, and connect with this moment of our lives, the best moment to be fully alive. If you'd like, you might turn your attention inward. Feel yourself connected to the earth through whatever you're sitting on, and feel the earth support you and become grounded in that. Take a few deeper breaths, a nice deep breath, and breathing in a calm energy, let it fill your being. And as you breathe out, relax and let go. Take a few deeper breaths like that. Then let the breath find its own natural rhythm. Let the breath breathe you, nothing to force or control. Then simply turn your attention to your actual experience in this moment. Sitting here breathing. If there are sounds, including them. If you notice sensations, being aware of them. If you're in the middle of a particular mood or emotion, give space for that and just allow it to be here without judging or um, pushing away, but just allowing with kindness and presence. And if you find that your mind has wandered off, which it likely will in most people, don't judge that at all. Don't take it personally. It's just what minds do. And when you realize that you've been gone, appreciate that you're here enough to realize that and bring it back to what's happening now and simply receive your experience with a kind, relaxed presence. And I'll be quiet for a little while now. When you hear the bell ring, notice the hearing. And then when you're ready to very gently, mindfully make that transition of coming out of the stillness to be with us all.
Thank you, James. It's a great way to start. It's funny. It's like when you talk about the thoughts that emerge. As the person who's hosting the show, I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to ask? And I'm trying to you know fulfill my role as this facilitator of this live stream, but then also engaged in the practice, and I noticed that. And I liked how you also gave us permission to just sort of look at that without judgment. And so I tried to do that too. I,
Great.
I'd like to, I'd like, if it's okay with you, I'd like to start the conversation with a very pragmatic look at meditation, and then maybe kind of go into some of the deeper questions that I have for you. That I mean, you are a mentor of mine, and I haven't asked you a lot of these questions, but I'd like to start off with, since there's maybe some educators who are watching this, what is the we'll start here where I wrote something. I actually forwarded another person's post about how it's difficult for educators who are now going into their summer breaks to sort of shift into that, because they've been on a certain sort of track with their mind and their attention, getting up and going to school every day, working with kids and parents and colleagues, and really engaged in cognitively demanding work. And then they're trying to go home and get some rest, and they're on this sort of roller coaster all year long. And then they go into summer break, and it's almost like they have a difficult time making that transition to some time off.
Hmm.
What do you think is happening there for the educator whose mind they're having a hard time, quote unquote, turning it off? And how can a practice like the one you just did with us help an educator sort of make that transition, or make it to where they don't feel like it's as much of a stark transition?
Hmm. Well, that's interesting. For me, when the school year ended, and I loved teaching for 10 years in New York and a couple of years out in California. I'm still in touch with students from 50 plus years ago who I connect with and say, "Hey, Mr. Baraz, hey, it's so good to connect with you." And when the end of the year came, I had my own experience of saying, "Oh, I've done what I could, and I'd felt good about it, and now it's time to just really nourish myself and enjoy." That was me. Now, I understand that for some people, that might not be the case at all. You might be thinking about students and what you might have done differently or better, or maybe you don't know what to do with your all that time. Um, and if that's the case, the essence of the practice is to just allow your experience however it is without judging it. And it's true that transitions are often one of the more challenging parts of our lives, because there's an adjustment that's needed. Either you've been on the go and now you stop, or you come back from your vacation and then, oh, now I've got to rev up. And it's in transitions that we usually um, get confused by the adjustment. So for me, one of the things, and I have my own transition challenges in my life, um, it helps to pay really kind, careful attention to what my internal experience is, and just be curious, not be um, judgmental that I'm getting a little bit um, stirred up or confused or whatever, but to be very kind and patient with the transition, not to force the different gear, whether it's slowing down or speeding up, but just like you would with a kid who's going through a tough time adjusting to something. That kid doesn't need to be reprimanded and saying, "Come on, kid, get with the program, or if it's your own kid in your better moments, you might just realize, oh, what that kid needs is patience, is understanding. And the more you can bring that to the child, the more they can adjust. In the same way, when you're going through a transition, instead of being impatient with the adjustment, to pay particularly careful attention to that part of the unfolding, and to be kind, especially kind when you're getting a bit um, stirred up or agitated or confused. So that would be my great recommendation. And do things that really nourish yourself so that you can soak up the goodness from around you and inside you.
Yeah, I've noticed in those transitional times, uh, for me, there's certain places that I can go to where I feel this shift in my nervous system, either a shift up or a shift down. So there's certain places that I go to where but it usually takes a couple of days for me for that shift to take place. And there is some confusion because it's almost like I have an amnesia around, oh, I forgot that this is what so, and it's like, what's happening here? And this is
Mm,
particularly true when it's ramping up. Why is this happening? Why am I feeling more agitated or uh, nervous, or like this energy that doesn't feel good? It feels kind of like anxiety. Um,
yeah.
the I think I think that's one of the things too, is that um, there can be this whole layer of self-judgment, like, I'm on vacation now, I have a break now, why am I not feeling relaxed? Why am I not able to enjoy it? And it's almost like you're adding this additional layer of self-judgment, which is just going to draw you further away from being able to sort of dial it down. So how do we practice in a way to sort of recognize that and sort of deconstruct that, or at least be aware of it?
Well, you mentioned a couple of times a word that I find to be one of the most dangerous in all of this, this whole process, and that is the word "why." Because when you're saying, "Why am I going through this? Why do I feel this way?" It's almost bound to stir up the mind and add more judgment on top of it, just in the using of the word "why" with that tone. Why is this happening? There's a contraction and a frustration just in the word. So, for the purposes of, say, a meditative approach, um, the word "why" is a dangerous word unless you use it in a very loving way. Oh, why am I um, um, going through a difficulty? Uh, just like you would if you were asking a friend, oh, why are you going through it? But even better, what's happening inside? Because often, if you just see and name the reality for what it is and saying, oh, this is what's going on, and it's being curious rather than coming up with an answer. Oh, I'm stirred up because I'm a bit confused, or I'm lost, or I don't know what to do. And if you can be curious with great kindness, knowing that it will change. That's the bottom line reality. Whatever you're going through now is going to change. And if you're confused or you're stirred up, if you're impatient, you're just adding on to the problem. But if you realize, oh, this is what's happening now, and it will change, I will laugh again, I will smile again, I will come back to more even keel. There's more of a trust in the unfolding than being impatient and think, oh, I should be able to control things other than the way they are. So those are my main my main go-tos. Let go of the why, acknowledge what is happening, and being very patient with a sense of trust that things will change.
Uh, I feel, yeah. And I think this is a huge challenge for me because the moment that I don't feel well, like if it's the middle of the day and I'm just exhausted, I don't ask why, like, oh, I wonder why. It's like why it's like you can ask why, like it's really interesting the subtle difference between why as though this is unfair, the universe is unjust, this shouldn't be happening to me. I should feel vibrant and awake or great or like I should be feel a certain way instead of it really being genuine curiosity like, huh, I wonder if I had enough to eat or if I, maybe I didn't get enough sleep and just kind of looking for it in a sort of softer, more less judgmental way. It does feel like there's a subtle line there that
It
I know I'm looking at it from. I know that when I ask why, 9 times out of 10, it's like universe, why do I have to be? Why can't I feel great all the time? Why can't I feel?
Yeah, I'd say for most of us, it's 99 out of 100, uh, until you see how, you're not being a good friend to yourself, and you start to get, "Oh, I wanna be kind to myself just like I wanna be kind to my kid or a good friend." The other word that's a dangerous word, you just said it, was should. You know, I should be this or I shouldn't be feeling this way. You know, that you probably know the phrase "don't should" on yourself. Um, that you just, okay, this is what's happening. And the curiosity with kindness is magic. And, as great Ted Lasso said, "Be curious, not judgmental." Yeah, he was onto something. And one other thing that I would add that occurs to me is, a very wise friend and a teacher to many, um, on his, uh on his deathbed. Well, it was about a week before he died. He knew he was dying, and he was going through this process as consciously as one could. And he gave a series of talks on the process of dying. And somebody asked him, is all filmed. I actually have a tape of it, which I love. Somebody asked him, are you afraid? Are you angry? Are you confused? And he said, well, I do have those feelings. It's just part of being human. But then he said, I don't want to waste my time being in resistance to reality. Reality wins every time. And my task is to embrace. I'm ennobled by embracing reality and not fighting it. And that has been great advice for me for quite some time. That is really a North Star. I don't want to waste my time being in resistance to reality. Reality wins. Let me open up to it and meet it with grace and kindness.
I've noticed when you say that, like being in resistance to reality, that resistance is all happening, it seems like cognitively, right? It's all like my thoughts about what's happening to me. So, like, and it's really interesting if, like, somebody was saying, yeah, if you could not, like, with the way you started, we're gonna, let go of what's happened before, and we're gonna let go of what's coming forward. And just letting go of that time travel that we do, if you could just then so much of the resistance that's going on, which is really up here, falls to the wayside, and then you are left with the present moment where there may be something painful or difficult that you're dealing with, but you're not layering on all this inner narration, which is where it seems like most of my suffering comes from that narrator inside. How do we how do we practice in such a way to where, okay, maybe we can't, we're never going to be able to totally get rid of that narrator, but how do we make that narrator a little quieter and a little kinder?
Yeah. You started by saying most of it is cognitive, and certainly the thoughts give rise to a reality that doesn't support you, but the thoughts lead to internal reactions, and the reactions lead to a whole emotional response that also includes your body shooting cortisol, or in some ways your whole biochemical system gets activated. And even if you get rid of the thoughts, or if they pass, which they will eventually, you can still be feeling the reverberation of of the emotional reaction to those thoughts. So when you say, how do I get rid of them? Again, it's not so much getting rid of, it's making friends with it all. Here's the great Aikido move, if you know the martial arts, where instead of resisting and forcing, there's that expression, what we resist persists. The more you try to push something away, the more you're feeding it with your resistance. Um, if I say right now, um, try try to get try not to think about a pink elephant right
Right.
now. Get it out of your mind.
Yeah.
Come on, try really hard. No pink elephant.
Right.
It's your whole reality. So the paradox is, the more you try to push away or get rid of, the more life you give it. But rather than that response, the response um, is to meet it and hold it with kindness, and not to blame yourself for having it. Just like inside of us, there are all different parts inside. There's a wise part, there's a calm part, there's a clear part, there's a frustrated part, there's an angry part. They're all part of being human. And the way I see it, my job is to love and accept it all, whether or not love might be too strong a word, but embrace and accept it all. For me, love does work. Just like if you have a kid and your 4-year-old is having a meltdown, what do you say? You say, stop it, relax, cool it, kid. Are they going to say, oh, thank you for the reminder? Probably not.
Right.
But if you hold that kid and just know they're going through a meltdown, and you can hold them with love, they start to calm down. In fact, when my son Adam, who's now 39, when he was young, when he was, about 3 or 4, and it seemed like he'd have a meltdown every day. I used to wonder, when will there be a day where he doesn't have a tantrum? It was just a kind of curious, oh, how long is this going to go on? But we devised a little game that we played. I write about it actually in my book. And he'd be very dysregulated, and he could get really dysregulated. He has a strong will, always did, and I love him. But we'd go through it, and I'd say, "Hey, Ad, I see you're having a hard time. Would you like me to tell you the people who love you?" And we had this little agreed upon practice, and he kind of, if he could get through it, nod his head enough, and I'd hold him, and I'd start by saying, "Mommy loves you, and Daddy loves you, and Grandma loves you, and Aunt Susan loves you." And it was like you could just see him melt from one moment to the next, and he just, if he could open to it and just relax and calm down, it was like magic. And it's the same that we can do for ourselves. Maybe even put a hand on your heart, or some loving touch, or just even hug yourself, or just put a hand on your cheek, and just send that little one inside a whole lot of love.
Yeah.
Because the way I see it, we're all just little children, little boys and girls and children in just in big bodies, and in a moment it can be activated, and we can learn to calm it down.
Right. Yeah, I think there's, my when I first and I've felt anxiety off and on, but I started feeling anxiety intensely in my 20s, and my approach was always like, I've got to figure out a way to get rid of this because I shouldn't feel this way. And
Mm.
it was like very much like that Aikido thing. It wasn't until I figured that out years later where your resistance is actually what's keeping it going and giving it more energy. If you just allow it, you just say, I'm going to allow myself to feel this. And that's so counterintuitive because it feels so awful and all you want to do is escape from it. But it really is just like allowing it and knowing that, like you said, it comes in and it goes, and the more I try to get it to go away, I'm just delaying the sort of the digestion of it instead of just leaning into it. And I think Pema Children talks about how she learned to just notice when that was coming up, and instead of trying to escape it, she just leans into it. Let me lean into it. And it reminds me of like how the buffalo would get through the snowstorms rather than running away from it. They run right into it because they know the storm's coming at them, so they can
Mm.
go into the storm and get through it.
Mhm. Mm. Yeah, beautiful. And it might seem counterintuitive, but once you've seen it, maybe a number of times that you've seen it,
Yeah.
um, as you start to get the idea, uh, after a while, you kind of see, oh, you are in on an amazing secret that I don't have to. When I fight, it just gets worse, and when I open to and hold and allow, that's the healing. In fact, in the mindful self-compassion program that Kristen Neff and Christopher Germer have put together, it's a beautiful program. talking just about this, there's a couple of pithy sayings. They say, name it and you tame it, feel it and you heal it. Name it and you tame it. It's like, oh, that's what's happening. I'm having a meltdown here. Oh, wow. And then feel it and you heal it. There's something so so transformative about letting the awareness process
Right.
your internal experience, and that's how it can move, not by resisting, but by just letting yourself feel the pain, and then it starts to metabolize and transform.
And I think one of the things that educators do, um, is there's a lot of stress that goes along with the profession, and I'm sure they feel it, but sometimes you just make yourself so busy that you don't even have time to allow that, I don't want to call it the monster, but whatever, that those feelings to come up. And the moment they do, let me try to find something else to make me busy or some way to numb it. Let me just drink some wine or whatever. I watch a TV show, just distract
Yeah.
myself long enough that I don't have to look at it. And then they go into summer break, right? And then it's like I don't have the classroom to go to, the plans and the homework to grade, and all these things that were taking my attention. And now I'm sitting here, and all that stress that I've accumulated for the whole year is now there's nothing really buffering it from coming up. And now I'm having to deal with it. And I want to enjoy my summer break, but here I am with all that stress that accumulated that I didn't process because I was too busy to do it. And now I'm sitting here with it during a time that I just want to relax and enjoy myself.
Yeah, painful, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the time where you've earned and deserve some peace, some relaxation, you know, feeling. I would hope if you've gotten through the year that you could look back at all the good things that you've done and maybe all the students that you've supported and all the ways that you've been a positive force in their life. So that's one thing to do, to just be grateful that you got through it and you did a very good thing by your care and your skill in supporting the kids. And then, yeah, like we said, feel what's there, be very kind and patient with yourself. And then I find, and I recommend to people to create a nourishment list, that things that really nourish you, whether it's music, picking up a guitar that's been lying there for ages, or going out into nature, or dancing, or yeah, any number of things, feeling creative, letting yourself dance or write or whatever, being with friends, because when you're with someone, you don't have to keep it all within yourself. So finding things that really support well-being, and have a whole list, because sometimes we can get so caught and tight that we can forget the things that really move us. Um,
Yeah.
so those are things that I do.
Yeah. And I I feel like sometimes when I work with teachers, sometimes what they just need during their break is rest. And sometimes if they're feeling that energy, yeah, I think yoga or stretching or going for a walk and moving that energy around rather than sitting and sort of stewing in it can be really supportive. I want to ask you one more pragmatic question before I dive into my deeper questions that are just of personal interest. You write about joy, and I think about joy a lot, about cultivating my own joy. And sometimes when you look at the world, um, and you see what's going on in the world, whether it's Gaza or Ukraine or Iran or in the United States, and you see people suffering, it feels almost guilty to feel joy in the midst of other people suffering. How do
Mm.
you navigate that? Like, how do you see, our mutual uh, icon or whatever, Ram Dass would always talk about this sort of predicament that we're in, where um, where we're like in this world and we see all the suffering and we allow our hearts to break open for it. But in the midst of that, how do we sort of anchor to this underlying awareness that and and steadiness and joyfulness in the midst of all that suffering? How do we do that? How do we find that
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really important question. I teach awakening joy, and some people, just like you say, feel guilty. How can I let myself enjoy or be open to the good when there's so much suffering? I was just coincidentally having a conversation yesterday with a woman from Turkey who who had her own podcast, actually, that I was on, and she said that a turning point for her uh, came a few years ago when she was taking Awakening Joy, and she came to me exactly with this question because her mother, who went through much hardship, and Turkey has gone through a lot of difficulties. They had an earthquake a few years ago that 50,000 people died, and also have gone through a lot of pain. And her mother was giving her a hard time for trying to be joyful. And she said, how can you be that way when there's so much suffering? And she asked me, and I said, what I'm going to say now to you, since it was just yesterday that we talked about it. I said to her, well, just think, um, if you don't allow yourself to feel joy and feel guilty about it and feel that you need to be sad, uh, are you contributing to the world? Does the world need another sad person? How does that benefit? But if you can get in touch, not be naive and pretend that the sorrow and the difficulties aren't happening. It's important to allow them too, but rather than having them dominate your reality, um, if you can get in touch with all the good in life and you bring a little bit more happiness and well-being to the world, how do you how do you feel about someone who is not flaunting their happiness, but just radiating kindness and love
Yeah.
because they see the good in life and they see the good in you? I didn't know it at the time, but she said that was a very transformative moment, and she decided not to give in to her mother's admonition, and to see what a gift there is when I can bring a little bit more happiness into this world that has so much suffering. And so that's what I would advise anybody who might feel a little bit of guilt at feeling joyful. And you can't try hard to be joyful. It doesn't work. Oh, I'm going to be joyful now. Uh-uh. You have to just open to it and allow for your heart to be touched by all the goodness in life. So the main principle in this awakening joy is to be on the lookout for all the goodness inside and around you. And once you start tuning into it, once you start having your radar for goodness, it dramatically transforms, because then you're not living in guilt and you're seeing all the beauty in life, which helps you hold. It's a bigger container to
Right.
help you hold all the difficulties in life. And we generally like being around people who see the good, especially if they see the good in us. You know, when if you're around somebody who's negative and who's just complaining or seeing what's wrong, how does that make you feel? Especially if they see what's wrong in you. How do you feel? You feel small, you feel defensive, you feel it's contagious. But when you're around somebody who you know is seeing the goodness in you, how do you feel? You relax, you feel more yourself, and it kind of awakens that goodness just through their lens, what they see. So we can awaken that in each other, not flaunting it and saying, "Oh yes, isn't life wonderful?" But in opening up, learning to open up to the sorrow with delicacy and compassion, and learning to open up to all the joy and being on the lookout for the good. Works for me and works for many people that I hang out with.
Yeah, you used the word contracted earlier, and I think about like maybe like a camera or a telescope, and the aperture is really small. And if the aperture is really small and you're only looking at what's wrong in the world, then that's the entire vision. And what I think you're describing is how can we cultivate a wider aperture that still sees the suffering. It's not like we're shifting away from the suffering to avoid it. We're just opening the aperture of how we or what we're aware of, that includes the beauty of the simple things. Like I was in my backyard the other day and just looking at birds and flowers and just simple things. And when you open the aperture up and include all of the beauty and the wonder that's around you, it's like it doesn't make the suffering go away, but it's not the entire map. It's not the entire vision. And I think that's what we do is social media and the news and the way we talk about things. We just tend to get contracted and focus that aperture on what's wrong, and that just suffocates the capacity for that joy to emerge. So,
Yeah,
how do you practice that? How do you practice widening the aperture?
well, first, something about the contraction or expansion that for me is a very important principle. Um, all the uh, difficult mind states like sadness or anger or the wanting obsessive mind or confusion or worry, all the mind states that are associated with suffering are states of contraction. Your mind is contracted, like you say, your body is tense or gets contracted, and your heart also the same kind of contraction. All of the beautiful states, healthy states, kindness, compassion, generosity, joy, love, calm, all of those states are states of expansion. So for me, my own practice, what I try to monitor is um, am I contracted? And if I'm contracted, I'm not, it doesn't work to force, like we were saying, but I hold the contraction with kindness, with tenderness. not trying to immediately open up and come on now, get happy. But there's a tenderness of heart that can hold that contraction, like the parent with the holding of the child. And that in itself starts to release or soften that contraction into starting to relax and open. As far as how to do it, well, like I just said a moment ago, it's not so remote or far-fetched. You just look for the good and have a spirit of opening up to what's here instead of resisting it, and opening up to it with a loving heart, whether it's a tenderness that can hold the tightness, or even better, to be on the lookout for all that's good. And in fact, a friend of mine, maybe you've heard of him, Rick Hansen, who's a neuroscience expert. He's come to, and he's a good friend, and he's come to my Awakening Joy class, and he gave everyone there a simple little exercise. He said, when you happen to be feeling a moment of well-being, don't miss it. That's Awakening Joy summed up in three words. Don't miss it. And when you pay attention to it, the more you can really pay attention to it and let yourself feel it, the deeper it registers. So we can be out looking at a beautiful sunset and say, oh, that's so pretty. And what's for dinner? And we can miss it. But if we let it register, oh, how beautiful that is. And you move from, oh, feeling good this moment, to, oh, this is what it feels like to feel good. That's a whole other level of deepening. And his formula, his suggestion is, when you're experiencing a lovely moment, a pleasant moment, he says, you might just try hanging out there for 15 seconds. You don't have to say, excuse me, I'm doing my well-being homework, but rather just internally let it register. And it's been shown, this is where mindfulness is so powerful, that when you apply it and you let it register, it deepens it in neural pathways. He says, if you can do that 6 times in a day, something, a little thing to play with, that's 90 seconds of well-being, if you can handle it. And you do that over a 2-week period, you will very likely notice a shift in your well-being. One, because you're deepening the neural pathways as you pay attention to them. And 2, because you're starting to get into the habit of looking for the good. And the way it works, our minds, our brains will find what we're looking for. It's called a confirmation bias, and there could be a negative confirmation bias. You're looking through the lens of how everyone is going to disappoint you, or the world is going down the tubes. That's what your brain will notice. You look through the lens of, oh, people really want to be kind or want to be loved, or wow, there's miracles all around us. Your brain will find that too. So we find what we look for. So the key is to just keep on practicing looking for the good, while not being naive to pretend that everything is fine, but just, it takes more practice to overcome the negative confirmation bias. As it said, the brain is like Teflon for positive experiences and Velcro for negative experiences.
Right.
So
Yeah.
to switch that around so it becomes Velcro for the negative and Teflon more for the positive radically changes everything.
So yeah, it's interesting that, well, I think what you're describing is like savoring, right? Savoring the moment instead of looking at what's next on the agenda. It's like, can I savor even just the simplest moments like a sunset or just this beautiful bird that's in my yard? Can I stop and savor that? And what's interesting is what I'm hearing you describe is whether it's something that's come up that's difficult or whether it's something that comes up that's pleasant. It's like, can I slow down enough to be with it, to really be with it, and not to like skip ahead and miss the beautiful moment and not try to push away the sadness or the fear, but to actually be with it with kindness and patience. And I think that's hard to do in this society because we're just, we're so used to on our phone. I don't like what I'm seeing. I swipe and I'm to the next thing. And
Yeah.
and or even when I'm entertained, it's like, okay, I'm entertained now, but what's next? And I swipe and immediately get something else to entertain me instead of stopping and being with that. It's really really interesting. I do want to. We're running out of time, and I did want to ask this one question, and this is just a personal question, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Mhm.
So one of the things in my personal practice and in my personal exploration of these practices and this topic that I get some conflicting ideas on. I'd like to hear sort of your take on it. I hear some teachers talk about this sort of direct path, like that you don't really need to meditate for 20, 30 years, that there's just you can directly orient to this awareness. It's right there, just like it's always right there. It's just you're not oriented towards that blissful substrate of awareness. And then I'll hear other people like saying the importance of regular meditation practice to help sort of get you to be able to be aware of that. Some people call it enlightenment, whatever. What in your experience is it wrong to sort of be strident in a meditation practice and put a lot of effort into it and trying to get to that state, and we should just instead be asking like, who am I and what really is this underneath the identities and the forms, and just go to directly to the root thing? Or is the
Mhm.
practice necessary or super helpful in getting there?
Hmm. Some deep question here. Um, they're both true. Uh, however, um, just like you said, even when you know better, you find yourself getting caught in habits that don't serve you. So it takes practice to undo those habits. And that's where the miracle of mindfulness comes in. And the key is to come back to this moment with kindness whenever you see you're not here. So, yeah, and one teacher, one Tibetan teacher, used to call it manual labor. Okay, come on back, until it's not a chore, until it's like, oh, thank goodness I can be here. But it takes a lot of effort to be here and stay, and pretty much this is home base. But once you are here, whether it's for this moment or after 10 years of practice or whatever, whenever you're here, any extra effort is extra. Because once you're here, if you're saying, I really want to stay here, how can I be here more? What more? You're working against yourself, because once you're here, it's just relaxing into being here.
Right.
So it takes effort to get here, but when you're here, there's no place else you need to be or even can be. And so that's where the more you even when you're here, to just relax and enjoy the moment. That's it. Easier said than done, so we
Right.
need to practice.
Okay. So the practice, the meditation, the regular meditation practice is just building the muscle memory to just be able to keep coming back to now. The direct path is once you're in now, stop the search.
That's it.
The search is
My
over.
One of my a friend, who's been meditating for decades was on a retreat with me, and, I kept on telling him, this very wise being, you know, "Just stop and enjoy. You know how to do this stuff." And finally, by the end of the month, he said, "Oh, I got it. My new mantra, when in doubt, relax." That's basically relax, and I could say enjoy being
Settle
here
in.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel that sometimes, and it's like, and then it's just the forgetting, and then the remembering, and the forgetting, and the remembering, and the forgetting, and the remembering. And
Keep
yeah,
your sense of humor about it.
yeah,
Don't take it personally that you forget.
right,
It's the way we're wired up, and have compassion for yourself and for all of us.
yeah,
And then love it
right,
all.
right. James, this has been such a great conversation. I could talk to you for hours. I want to make sure I honor your time. I appreciate you, and I still all the time, um, when I talk to people, and I remember you saying to me, if you just orient your heart towards love, the universe will hold you. And whenever I get into doubt and worry and sort of anxieties about my career, or anxieties about, life and just situations that come up, I always think, if I can just follow, if I think about what James said, just where's my heart? Can I orient it back to love, and then just trust that whatever I'm going through on the other end of this, universe is going to hold me, because it always has. And I think that's just such beautiful advice, and I've shared that with lots of people, and I think it's been helpful. So thank you for that.
So happy you got the secret,
Uh,
and you got a great heart. So keep on loving.
Thank you, James, and please tell Jane we said hello, and hopefully I'll see you again, and we'll get some Thai food again sometime. I'd love for you to come out and visit us sometime. So
Sounds good. Say hi to Yelena too.
I
Uh,
will. I
yeah.
will. I'm sure she's watching. So yeah. All right. Thank you so much, James. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That's James Baraz, and if you want to learn more about what James has to teach, a good place to start is his book, Awakening Joy. You can find that any bookstore. You can find it on Amazon. It's a great book, covering some of the stuff that we talked about, and he's got online courses that you can take, that go with the book, Awakening Joy. So, thanks again so much to James. Thank you for tuning in. Um, we want to just wish everybody a wonderful summer break. And you can always reach out to us at cool at cewl.us. And of course, just want to thank again the SCEA for partnering with us to bring you these live streams and these resources. You can join the SCEA at jointhescea.org. And right now they're in early enrollment, so you wouldn't pay any dues for the rest of June, all of July, all of August, and the first dues would come out in September. They only do this at this time of year. So if you are new and you want to be a part of the SCEA, now is a great time for you to join. Thanks again to James Baraz. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on the next live stream.